Okay, so it's called The Burnt Bee. A smite of calligraphy, the tendrils, amputations, whiskers and husky misplaced feathers. His is a tobacco, a poppy seed head, all stretched out like a clumsy sentence, the dry arc of the afternoon dismantling a beast who coughs under the spotlight. The consumption, sticky lungs of a honeycomb bled red, passes over the fields with summer whipped to ash like a fat cat's tail drawing down smoke. In his last moments, he beats his wings, he raises his mouth, but is nothing without numbers to support him. Thank you. We've just got you a drink.
No. So I could do my B one. Shall I do my B one?
Yes, please.
Sorry about that. I was a bit thirsty. Okay, so this is my B one. A bee limps its limbs along the windowsill by me. On the TV, a news feed presents events in Syria, Ukraine and other places, on fire or bombed out, life's thread lost in the wasp-headed noise of men. And out on my street, I am annoyed about the short statement, sense and structural rhetoric, cancerous hip replacement council waiting list. We're all in this together. Ice melts, death mounts. A child will be scalded by his mother soon. On my windowsill, the bee dies. I write, it's January. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we've like done two kind of volumes of poetry, and we're kind of doing the kind of third one. And this is so these poems are getting not to do with New York, but maybe we can come and do that another time. And so this volume's about initially like Marianne came across this photograph of she's quite insane lady.
It's by a photographer called John Crispin. And do you want me to explain?
By all means.
Well, I came across him because I was researching a book about something that was different. And this guy called John Crispin is from New York and he's fantastic and you can look him up. He's got a brilliant website. And one of the things that he did was taking pictures of people outside their trailers in like a trailer park. And there was one of this woman, she was an elderly woman. She was very glamorous and she was just kind of tilting in this way that invites you in, and I was totally blown by it. So I wrote a poem while I was at work when I should have been working, and then sent it to Steve, and then he
working also.
and then he sent me a response, and then we thought, oh right, okay, we'll do this thing where we send each other poems and take something from the one that was last written and try and incorporate it. So we put a whole collection together from that. So I'll read the one for the photograph. It's a shame we couldn't have it actually, so you can see.
It's still good though.
But I actually showed it to the guy who took the photograph and he said that's exactly how she was. So that just shows a good photograph really. So it's called A Photograph. She was dressed in her best, a blouse pressed and starched, the tie and fur trim of a coat poised, delicate and dripping from the smile, face full on, the camera welcome. By the bird bath it was decided, the stone pillar and wide basin, a movie set of epic imitation, and the door and windows of her trailer behind, all lace and trim with shutters open. You wonder, did she look for Christ all her life? Each peel of winter skin suggests, Bible pages from planted trees, who scale the outside walls with tickled thins of finger and curled back rubs to invite. Come in, please come in. There are visitors, her face says. I have kept company, the sky moving over her window, her steps, the lawn clipped neat and short.
So we're not doing these in a kind of sequential thing, we're just like taking them from the volume, so if they don't relate to one another, that's why. Okay. The semantics of toleration. In terms of a sequential framework, the muscles of speech recall shapes. Shakes head for no, or nods for yes. To command by voice, information can be inconsistent, like broad daylight and vowel sounds remaining viable as skin or oral hygiene. Desensitization works better with mother than his impulsivity with assisted grooming after love was pushed clear somewhere into the future.
So they're not in the order that we wrote them, so... but when you read them, hopefully you'll see that there is like a thread. So this one's called The Crow. There was no farmer warm to her kind for kind's sake. The fields she grazed with night-choked eyes, greedy rips of moon, pie bleeding into furrows, each ink spot oil-drubbed feather, 4.20 for the giddy sniff of a loaded barrel, and stalemate scarecrows in their dysmorphia, stick-thin and bent. Yet something of a stain, like a sunset in her black, still searched for the bullet's heart. A spit of feathers, suggestive of suicide, despite the cunning dip of her head to flight. That pocket watch secret in the unravelling mist, and the sooty frown of curious watchmen, who make no secret of their desire to have all birds for having sake.
What the neighbour said. Leaning over the wall, her washing surrendering its baby wet to the wind, the neighbour said she spied an enemy jet before she even heard it. Trailing our flags like a cloud of bonds, she rolled up her sleeves and left with the landlord for talks, down past the shops already sold, shifting all manner of others in the way, and made a coded call to an old relative hidden in Argentina, who advised on colours of least resistance and confidence in airborne silhouettes. Together we stand, the voice said, and divided we might just almost learn.
This one's called Either Or. In the air a coin has time to decide many things, so colour the flick of your thumb with urgency. A god is waiting. He or she, no one cares to assume, nor desires for a name. It being a moment on the wind or a roll of the dice on you, it has to be one thing, it cannot be all. A curious dimple for fate curled on this face of infinite faces. Cure your weight for such on this, some microscopic deed, as helpful as a star being born, or a bee sting failing to pierce your clothes. How allergic you are to thinking beyond your nose, and the germs that you too spread. Some questions to consider when giving it all away to the entitlement of chance. Who is it that could hurt more than you, or love with greater passion? This life of spontaneity being perhaps just a cat licking the fall of a tumbled beer bottle onto the floor, never knowing if his master will return.
Cocktail. They pulled back my foreskin after questions about bullying and bedwetting and other things. Several assessing pairs of eyes peered into my groin whilst she stood by huffing something about accidents and clean underpants. Then their gloves inspected the shrivelled meat I could not touch nor show to anybody other than like this. Shh. Shh. As if waiting for a lover's kiss. And you will hear the applause on the ward of hordes of stamping feet wanting an end or a wave or a war.
I wrote this, it's a physics equation, but I was really crap at physics, so I can't even remember what it stands for. I think it's called W equals FD, so I think that's work equals force times distance. I hope it's that, because otherwise this poem doesn't make any sense. So W equals FD. If you take the stairs, the appreciation of how tall your building is augments in the understood beads of sweat on your brow and that tickle in your chest. This is varied by motive, and the peak is in the pudding, given how much you wish to dine there. Ground floor offices, for example, are littered with lettuce leaves, and just to let you know, each penthouse is serving pheasant. Grumble, you can. Receptionists, counsellors, customer service telephone workers, writers, graphic designers, commercial and public transportation drivers, cashiers, tech support, administration and general office work burn on average 820 calories in one working day. Clocking off at 1400 we have construction workers, waitresses, farmers and landscape gardeners, professionals of a construction trade such as plumbers, roofers and carpenters. My own appetite is somewhat lacking, working on the second floor of nothing. An orange peel curls around my wrist, like some endless scarf knitted in a waiting room.
Babel. Babel is in the streams and rivers below the skin, the slow whisper of dark folding over sunlight. Sometimes I can hear the rush's flower press within my chest, chaptering into this mill tower waking pocket weight of nettled grief and bricks. Knowing this place exists, napkin black, screaming in soil and elbow thin, I let it escape like arterial blood and wait for the roots to shine.
And this actually does come after the one that you've written. It's called Mitochondria. Very sciencey, but I don't really know all these.
Science is good.
Yeah.
Science is good.
Science is good. Mitochondria. I said everything was outside, a responsibility as wind thin, as the bee I found dead on the windowsill. Her belly fern matted with all these words that kept me inside that little corner of the sun on the carpet. The days rolled over my knees, grey pillow bruises in the curl of my body, sky wrinkling any thought of sleep, eyes open, eye closed, it didn't matter. Summer was everything until it was not. Promises of sun dilapidating hungry cells that made fat the kitchen sink with cleaning occupations of the mind. And it would not do to do so little every day. Tired as I was. Why does this happen? I wish I had the nerve to ask. Why do I always seem so weak? Your kindness is a pucker of flower heads, a green vitamin silhouetted in the sun, returning from your days at work to sit me down, insist I eat, and plump me up with laughter.
There's urge to pull my kecks. Sometimes that works, sometimes it just, wow, don't work at all. The principle of non-intervention. Mid-June, years away, Kenny and me laughing on the park swings. I imagine the green fields and the sun-blue sky in seasons since always relaying our sound to somewhere else. Perhaps a quiet home where love could be found, cat-curled by the fire of a full week's work, no need for candles or paraffin under the sink. We'd walk to school together. His front door was always lockless, the kitchen an oblivion of bread ends and dog food, 8mm palm reels left out, ashtrays full, Animal Farm, no family photographs framed. One day he stayed off ill, spat a bucket inch deep in dentist blood, skin as bare as the plaster of his room. I really had no idea as a kid, did I? So I contented myself with the lovely seconds instead, when fun was an open field with swings, away from the grey curbstones of home, soaring again, feet first into the clouds of the plausible safety of dream.
The last one now. Yes.
Really your last one?
I'll just go off the stage. Just run off. This is my last one. And it's actually called Words. Words. To give words their physical, their deliberate shape, canticle folds of cells ribbing together to make flesh, where vowels make round your mouth, what form bearing can these words have? Let's pretend I have given each word the chance to feel a human's form first. Brim from pools of quiet eyes, over cheeks and lips and the blot of fingers, a napkin folded corner by corner until sore, each stirring of a newly muscled word, feeling the weight of being a live thing, wanting of its very own to love.
Bought person. He lay on a pedestal of land, the common ground where red brick houses used to stand in their damp, rising shifts of families and cotton dust shoulderings of bracelet walls, gypsy queens and gossip fading into more concrete appreciations of war after the war, the way older boys brandish their dad's hammer in the street. He woke, thirsty, dew-drenched, as if spat from the ocean of night, and beach dried like a bedsheet sail, sun-strung, his mouth full of journeys, those figurings of rope and wood, his hope of escape wretched as his borrowed clothes. I gave him water, he moved on, before they settled proper into the terraced gables of adulthood, tool hands forming where words won't ever live, waiting for the next invasion. Thank you very much.
That was really great, and I like that back and forth we had there. We've not done that before. That was, give them another round of applause. It was really wonderful. I very much enjoyed that, and like responses to art as well, very much here. I'm going to finish with a poem, but Becca has been absent-minded.
Yeah.
I thought that she had everything in hand before I arrived. That is apparently not the case. We do normally have a task, a sort of small writing exercise
I have the prize,
for prize. Don't get the prizes out. Get the task out. Right. Does anyone need paper and a pen if they need to do a task?
I'm going to hand around a piece of paper and I'd like you to write a phrase on it so we make like a hive mind poem.
Oh, that's great. Okay, and put your initials next to your line.
Yeah, and then the prize would be...
And then we'll choose, we have a silly prize and a good prize, but they're both about the same level, really. The booby prize isn't usually that bad. Okay, so I'm going to read this poem. And because we finished magnificently early tonight, we'd like you all to stay, get more drinks from the bar, because to be honest, cheapest drinks prices in the Northern Quarter. Woohoo! And you can meet lots of lovely poets. If you felt so inclined, my poetry collection's on sale at the back, as other poets' collections are available at the back there as well. And there's vases and hats and anyway, there's plenty of things to entertain you. But what I will do is I'll read this, and then if you want to join in, add a line. Like, it's like when you do that story at school, and you go around a circle, and someone says a line, and then you have to add to the story. It's like that. We've gone back to primary school here,
yeah,
so it's that level of the evening.
I have a poem too.
You have a poem too. Well, come up and do your poem then in a minute. Do you want me to do mine first?
You do yours first.
I'll do mine first. Okay. Right, so there is a poetry magazine called Verse Kraken, and they do this strange thing where they post things online. You have to respond to them and create a piece of poetry. They particularly like experimental poetry. I did that this time. It's run by the wonderful Claire Trevian. If you don't know her and her work, please look her up because she's brilliant. I recently did the Penning Perfumes project, where I had to write poetry about perfumes last year, which is both the strangest and possibly the most wonderful thing I've ever done. So I wrote this poem in response to a piece of illuminated text, which, if you don't know, is what the monks used to do, and they used to make beautiful books because we didn't have printing presses. And it was kind of a monster with a poem in the middle. And so I made a poem about a monster, and then I split it into two. So you can read it across, which I will do now, but you could read it like this, or you could read it like any way you want, really. That was the idea, choose your own adventure poem. So I will read it the linear way, should we say. So it's called The City, because I'm original like that. When you write a poem at short notice for a deadline, these things happen. The city at a distance is sieved out glitter. It has as many teeth as points of light. The city is a monster that keeps man from being among the stars. Its vastness swallows men whole, it silences with money, lack and want. When it hasn't rained, its veins reek of desperations of bodies that live there, lured there by the monster's charm. Its body sprawls so much, no one can decide its end or beginning, a creeping, an increase in the scales forming tighter, rising higher as the city monster breathes, concrete undulates in the skyline. There are those who brandish their sanity as a false virtue, a sword laid between them and the many who swore it spoke to them as they drank their meagre wages, poison in their ear, urging them on to consume, promising them its heart. Okay. So, thank you for coming to the first third of the year. January is a terrible night for getting people out. It's been blooming cold. You've all come along, you've all shared poems. Some of you have shared new poems. You've all joined in with the theme somewhat. Well done, everybody. Round of applause. If I had some gold stars for you, you'd be all getting a gold star. I mean, we don't currently have gold stars, I'm afraid. But yes, please stay, talk to poets, talk to people who are performing if you like their poetry. Be nice if you thought it was rubbish then. Poets are very fragile.
We need to come back and do the...
Yes, but what we're going to do is we will have a sort of 10-15 minute break for people to add to this little poem thing if you want to. You can just pass it on if you don't feel like it. You don't have to join in, but add a line and include your initials if you do feel like doing it, and you might get a prize in 15 minutes. So, and it's, you're more likely to win than the lottery. But the prize is significantly more rubbish than the lottery. So come back here, 10 to 15 minutes time. Please stay, have a drink, whatever. Bar is open till 11, I assume. Yeah. As I say, cheapest prices in the Northern Quarter. And they've got a brand